Hey guys, Daggz here, getting ready to start Chapter 7, where we're going into the bookstore looking for Algernon Drake. So let's just jump right into it. Hope you guys enjoy it. Chapter 7, The Nameless Bookstore. The Shambler turned out to be much more than an artwork painted by Sarah Hawkins, as a huge creature came out of the painting to attack Pierce. After a hard fight, the detective managed to send it back to the painting. He later discovered that the dagger he used to repel the creature had been sold to Sanders by a man named Algernon Drake, owner of the Nameless Bookstore. Pierce decides to pay the library a visit. On y va? Alright,
Where is the bookseller?
that's a good question.
Freud's The Interpretation of Dreams. It's the work that laid the foundations of psychoanalysis at the beginning of this century.
This practical work, written by Sigmund Freud for psychologists, describes the techniques of the analytical interpretation of dreams. The analysis must follow several rules, especially that of free association, a principle announced by Freud at the end of the 19th century. It treats dreams as a way of revealing buried desires. I cannot believe that this theory is applicable to my nightmares. Pretty book. What are you?
Another volume of the Reverend's wife's diary.
Volume 4. The pastor declared himself to be the prophet. He renounced God and worshipped a strange pagan entity with a monstrous appearance. His wife tried to reason with her husband, but in vain. He was convinced that he must listen to this voice in his head because it holds the truth. Are you sure about that? Any books to investigate over here? Gas can is full. History of Darkwater, Volume 2. A Puritan colony led by Reverend John Wickwood settled on the island during the 17th century. They named the island Darkwater because of the dark shades of the sea. They believed it was because of the peculiar color of the rocks surrounding the island. They erected the first buildings, among which were the Hawkins Manor, the church, and the cemetery. The rare documents and handwritten notes they left spoke of nightmares and deviant behaviors. They disappeared at the beginning of the 18th century. Breviary of Medicine, Tome 3. Even a few years back, it was possible for a single practitioner to know all of the medical knowledge of this time. This book, which concludes the series, shows that this is now virtually impossible. About 10 renowned doctors took part in putting together this collection. Yay, 100%. Alright, and let's boost investigation. Oh, my sanity's gone down. Malleus Bestiarum. Pierce read an ancient treatise? Not sure. The Malleus Bestiarum. This bestiary makes an inventory of numerous creatures from the occult world of parallel dimensions. The very nature of its knowledge makes it an unholy book. By reading it, Pierce lost some of his sanity. The death of Francis Sanders. The weirdness of Francis Sanders' death went far beyond anything Pierce had ever seen. Lifted off his feet by an invisible force, the poor man's body was carried into the air before being thrown violently against the bars of his hiding place. Pierce, powerless, watched the limbs break and Sanders' body crumble to the ground. During long moments of agony, the detective saw nothing that could explain this event. Weakened by his wounds and the operations he could remember undergoing, Pierce begins to question his ability to tell the difference between reality and the nightmares that haunt him. And the Shambler. Creepy bugger. It is in Francis Sanders' private gallery that Pierce discovers the identity of the Shambler, a huge artwork painted by Sarah Hawkins. When Pierce approached it, a creature burst forth from the painting and immediately chased after him. This beast from another dimension has such a hold on the mind of a person who finds himself in its presence that a simple glance in its direction is enough for Pierce to lose some sanity. Pierce managed to send the Shambler back into the painting using a dagger engraved with a strange symbol. But this encounter left its mark on the psyche of the investigator. Still under the influence of the creature, he almost stabbed his own hand. Nobody likes the Shambler. It's creepy. Hate it. Yuck. The dimensional Shambler comes from a dark and inhospitable dimension, where the rarity of food sources keeps it in a state of permanent starvation. This is why it is in a constant state of readiness to travel to other dimensions in order to feed on its inhabitants. Make sure you never weaken the veils of your dimension, otherwise you risk attracting this very dangerous creature. Should this happen, you just have to lay eyes upon it for its being to anchor itself in your dimension and to allow it to rip you open with its claws. Extract taken from the Nameless Bookstore by Abigail G. Painting. Ick. The painting was exposed in Francis Sanders' gallery, but I think that the creature no longer requires it for movement. It went to hunt down Sanders in the cellars of the Riverside Institute. I do not know where it comes from, but one thing is for sure, it is starving. Did I succeed in sending it back to its world? I'm not sure. Extract from the notebook of Edward Pierce, private detective. The pretty dagger. This exceptional dagger of Ottoman origin probably dates from the 16th century. It bears the elder sign on its hilt. It apparently belonged to Pargali Ibrahim Pasha, Grand Vizier at the court of Suleiman the Magnificent. Legend tells that Pargali used the symbol on the dagger to protect the court from a creature that haunted the mirrors of the palace. What is certain is that Suleiman had his vizier executed. Did he fear him after this demonstration of power? Extract from Art and Mysticism, Francis Sanders' Forgotten Objects. And then the Evil Book. Men will gather the knowledge through the lines dictated to me by the great old ones, but also in other volumes. These visions that assail me whisper me names and silhouettes of mystical creatures. Soon the Malleus Monstrorum, repository of all anatomical, cosmic, and dimensional knowledge, will be seen as the authoritative work. This book, unholy among the most cursed books, will one day be the final rampart between man and the predators that are waiting to devour him, hidden behind the veils of paranormal dimensions. Extract taken from the Nameless Bookstore by Abigail G. Missed hints. Medical record for Francis Sanders. Letter of refusal. These I've basically already read. At the Sanders, cross-checking the information given by Francis Sanders and his widow, it is impossible to reconstruct the events that led to the internment of Sanders. Everything points to the Sanders and Sarah Hawkins being close, linked at least by the interest the collector showed in the artist's work, but more probably of a certain friendship, attested to by the repeated refusals of Sarah Hawkins to sell the painting called The Shambler. Against all expectations, she finally gave it away for free. The feelings still shown by Irene Sanders towards Sarah Hawkins are evidently derived from what she considers to be the artist's responsibility. Madness struck Sanders a short while after he gained possession of the painting. anything else in... Oh, yep, right there.
The Book of Zion is the foundational work behind Helena Blavatsky's Theosophical movement. Its followers place truth on the same footing as a religion.
These Tibetan writings are at the origin of the esoteric movement founded by Helena Blavatsky at the end of the 19th century. The creator of Theosophy would have drawn extensively on the text of this work, but no one has ever been able to consult them. I thought they didn't exist. This book, discovered in the Nameless Bookstore on Darkwater, could be as much a fake as irrefutable proof of Blavatsky's sincerity. The books in this game are gorgeous. Excuse me. Will you read the book? Yes, I will read the book.
What does this strange book contain? This book contains unholy knowledge.
This collection catalogs and classifies creatures I have never heard of, divinities from the stars, creatures capable of traveling from one dimension to another. It presents itself as the reference work on the bestiary of the myth, without giving details on the mythology to which it refers. Its pages are covered with phantasmagorical illustrations. Handbook on Anatomy and Dissection, Book 2. As precise and illustrated with as much detail as the first volume, this book focuses on healing surgeries specific to malformations and motor disorders. Over here. I don't need to refill the oil again. Beautiful chalice. Book. History of Darkwater, Volume 4. In the 19th century, as the American whaling industry reached its peak in the rest of the world, whales gradually disappeared from the waters surrounding Darkwater. This phenomenon appears even more mysterious because up till then, the region was a favored refuge for cetaceans. In 1847, after months of pursuit, the Scylla returns to port with a gigantic creature on board. Its crew asserts that the sea monster had eaten all the disappeared whales. After a night of ferocious combat, the survivors managed to drag the beast onto the whaling ship. Oh, phonograph. Anything to read over here? No.
What happened here?
Alright. Let's get into the reconstruction.
Let's start over. Where did they break in from?
Doors broken, window.
Blood. Seems like amateur work. Someone tall left this footprint. A man, probably.
Wonder how you can tell that.
This burglar seems to be rather clumsy.
Somebody broke a lamp.
What killed all these animals? What sort of thief leaves his tools at the crime scene?
Someone who doesn't care what he's doing.
What happened that made the burglar flee before finishing his work?
He saw this symbol.
What the... Charles Hawkins? What sort of power did Sarah Hawkins' painting possess?
Oh.
Sarah Hawkins helped hide something in this safe.
Not just something very particular.
Drake put in a great deal of effort to hide whatever is in here. Everything is linked to the Sarah Hawkins case.
Yeah. And that book is the least friendly of books.
Drake left instructions on how to find the combination of his safe.
A page seems to be hidden here. It is possible to read. If somebody finds these memoirs, there will be no doubt that I am in serious trouble. My last and only hope is that my body and my bones are still in this plane of reality, in order that they be recovered and burned. The funeral urn must be given to my dear mother if she is still of this world. The following message is of capital importance. Whoever reads these lines and demonstrates acuity as sharp as mine can hope to gain access to my most precious possession. It lies within my safe, and the clues to the combination are to be found in 3 cylinders, each hidden where life and study combine in the Greek world. Each cylinder is numbered, even if, as the celebrated author says, order is the pleasure of reason, but disorder is the delight of the imagination. Indeed, despite my preference for organized chaos, I must admit that the reason usually prevails in the end. If by chance a person, or should I say a genius, was to match my intellect and find the combination to the safe, I would ask that they deliver its contents into the safekeeping of my friend and colleague, Professor Armitage of Miskatonic University. The content of this safe is not only a vast digest of knowledge, but also a weapon that is far too dangerous for it to fall into the wrong hands. I hope that you will be able to appreciate the danger that this represents, and that you will act accordingly. In any event, I will neither be there to guide you, nor to suffer from your actions. Alright. Handbook on Anatomy and Dissection, Book 1. The least that can be said about this book is that its title is very well conceived. The illustrations of human anatomy and dissection methods presented are illustrated in great detail. You have to have a strong heart or the detachment proper to doctors to consult its pages.
Is everyone on this island taking sleeping pills?
Pretty much.
What link did he find between Charles Hawkins and an old amulet?
Key of Riley. File. This key that bears the Elder Sign is the only one able to protect your psyche. It is in the form of a cylindrical medallion hanging at the end of a heavy chain. Hundreds of years ago, the star and the branch whose purpose is to push back the forces of the great old ones were engraved at its center. Everything points to it being Charles Hawkins that tore it from its last owner, an Egyptian antique dealer. In press cuttings that mention the misdemeanor, the date of the robbery coincides with the last of Hawkins' trips to Cairo. It remains to be seen whether he knows the true purpose of the artifact. Try to find it. Still stuff to find. Anything in this room still? Oh, what are you?
A strange amulet. I have a feeling I'd better not touch it.
It's the hound. A strange amulet. The pendant is in the shape of a large dog. I don't know what it represents. I might find out more by researching the bookstore. Or searching the bookstore. Alright. Books. So the cylinders are over here.
Cylinders that Drake tried to hide. I should perhaps listen to them.
Remember that phonograph? Well, here's where it comes into play. Refill my lantern because I like having it full. Alright, cylinder 1.
And these red drops, like precious stones, lie fixed, set in divine gold. To be the guardian of the Grail does not protect me from its attractions, Henry. And I do confess it. I am willing to pay to know its secrets.
Remember that chalice I mentioned? This one right here.
The Chalice of Knowledge.
This goblet seems to be very ancient. It seems to be made of gold and decorated with real precious stones. Do the rubies and sapphires make up a specific motif? Yes, you're looking to count the rubies. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to say it's 5. And then cylinder 2.
I finally understood that we were only pieces on the chessboard of the gods. Let those of us who are still standing protect our White Queen from their dark soldiers. I see our number dwindling, and my will strengthens as my apprehension grows. We shall refuse to be the playthings of destiny.
Alright, go back to the chessboard. There's 3 pieces still protecting the White Queen. And then listen to the 3rd cylinder.
Dear friend, I thank you again for the anthology of the works of Arkham editions that you sent me. Volume 9, Azathoth and Other Horrors, seemed particularly relevant to my research. I never tire of browsing through them.
Okay. So we have to count how many books in that series. There's at least 9 because of what the doctor, or what Algernon said.
So these are the volumes that Drake was talking about in his message.
Written by Hermes Trismegistus, translated and edited by Nathaniel M. Copernicus. This collection of texts on different beliefs was written by a legendary philosopher. It includes a translation of the Emerald Tablet, a popular text among 16th century alchemists. This volume is part of the Arkham Anthology, a luxurious collection of treatises and works on esotericism of the supernatural.
What did Drake say about this collection?
There's at least 9. So this one's 3, the other one was 2. Collection of essays on American folklore and urban legends, written by Albert Wilmarth, professor at Miskatonic University. This volume is part of the Arkham Anthology, luxurious collection of treatises and works on the esotericism and the supernatural.
Drake talked about a particular volume.
Collection of long-term astrological predictions written in verse, written by Nostradamus, translated by E. Leone and Theophilus Widebridge. So this is volume 6.
So these are the volumes that Drake was talking about in his message.
This is volume 8. Opera in 8 acts by Benvenuto Chiedi. Riviera, an infamous lyrical work published in Italy in 1768. It is said that the opera was performed only once, resulting in an audience riot that left several dead and missing.
What did Drake say about this collection?
This one's 4. Book of Spells, supposedly written by the legendary King Solomon, contains various rituals of invocation and rituals of curse. Reedition by Claudia D. Waiters, based on L.W. D. Lawrence's original.
Drake talked about a particular volume.
I think I just clicked on the same one twice.
So these are the volumes that Drake was talking about in his message.
And this is 9. A collection of poems by Edward Pickman Derby, also known as The Nightmare Lyrics. This collection of poems was sensationally received when first published in 1908. Derby was only 18 years old. Azathoth and Other Horrors.
What did Drake say about this collection?
And this is 7. Book of Esoteric Philosophy and a key text in Madame Blavatsky's Theosophical Movement, written by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. This volume is part of the Arkham Anthology. So that was 9 books. Alright. Did I miss anything in here? No. Alright, so the first one should be 5. And then... Okay, so it's the R2 bumper to move the knobs. Second one should be 3. And the last one should be 9. And there's the Necronomicon. So once you open the Necronomicon, it starts the next section. So I'm going to leave it there for now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and will join me in the next one. Have a good one for now.